All right, guys. Penn State can't lose this game. They just can't.
There we go.
Number 6 Oregon going to Happy Valley to face number 3 Penn State in the whiteout game. This is the first time Penn State's facing a top 10 team in their whiteout game since 2018, where they lost to Ohio State, Urban Meyer and company. Penn State currently holds a 5-game winning streak in the whiteout game. They had 2 last year. They beat SMU in the playoff and they beat Washington earlier in the season. The Ducks are coming to town. So first, let me start off with this. Everything, and I mean everything, is set up for Penn State to win this game. Young team versus a much more experienced team. You're talking about a young Oregon team coming to the East Coast to be in one of the most hostile environments in college football that they haven't seen before, against a Penn State team that has returning senior quarterback in Drew Aller, 2 returning running backs in Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. Receiving-wise, they have 3 transfers. They're better, and an NFL-ready offensive line. The Penn State offense needs to get going in this game. And you talk about Oregon on the other side. This is one of the most talented teams in college football. If I had to pick a national champion right now, if I picked Oregon, I'd have no problem with them. And you know they're going to be motivated because Dan Lanning's one of the best motivators in college football. I mean, he said it in his pregame press conference early in the week. It's the whiteout because Oregon's coming. This team has battered everyone. Sure, was it Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, and Oregon State? Yeah, but some teams have played them close. Northwestern's lost 2 games, right? And they've won a game. Oregon battered them. Oregon State, Oregon battered them. Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy talked, Oregon battered them. Oregon will be ready for the occasion. Everything indicates that Penn State needs to win this game. The biggest question surrounding this Penn State program going into 2025 was this. If not now, when? Penn State made the 2024 college football playoff semifinals. They lost to Notre Dame on the last-minute interception that Drew Aller threw. And now they bring back everyone on both sides of the ball pretty much, right? I already talked about the offense. On defense, you have A.J. Harris. He might be the best corner in America. Zane Durant might be the best nose tackle in America. Tony Rojas, he looks incredible early in the season. Everything is lining up for Penn State. And then you add on the fact that they had a bye week to prepare for this game. There's more tape on Oregon, and Penn State hasn't played anyone yet. Am I respecting FIU, Villanova, and Nevada? Yeah, a little. I mean, Penn State hasn't looked great offensively, and let's start with that. And they still blew them out, by the way. Let's talk about Penn State's offense to start, because that's going to be the biggest thing in this game. And I'm stealing this straight from Josh Pate's mouth right now. I know that because I watched in December when Penn State put up 37 points and still lost to Oregon because they gave up 45. You talk about the Penn State offense. It's Drew Aller. Drew Aller is widely considered one of the best quarterbacks in college football when he's at his best. But he has not been on his best this year. You're talking about only 6 explosive passes. He hasn't been connecting with receivers. A QBR of just over 50. Yeah, Drew Aller is going to decide this game. Oregon's a team that doesn't stop the run that well. You're talking about around 50th in America in rush yards per game when you're going defensively. You're talking about an Oregon rushing off, or defense rather, that gives up over 100 yards per game. And Penn State's going to be able to run on them regardless of where Oregon was ranked. You have Nick Singleton and you have Katron Allen. That's really, really good. Drew Aller versus the Oregon passing defense is the matchup I want to watch on this side of the ball. Why Oregon hasn't given up a passing touchdown yet this year. And so you're talking about Drew Aller against a very, very experienced Oregon defense too, right? They're getting Theron Johnson back. He transferred from Northwestern. Dylan Thieneman's one of the best safeties in America. He transferred from Purdue. And this is what Dan Lanning does. He transforms these secondaries year after year after year. And so for Drew Aller and a Penn State passing offense that averages just over 240 yards per game, yeah, it's now or never. And it's now or never for this entire Penn State program when you put it in that perspective. Drew Aller, it's got to start with him. I mean, you talk about Drew Aller, right? On the season, he has thrown so far 626 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Has he had to play out of his mind yet? No, of course not, because of who Penn State played. But Penn State really didn't show a lot of encouraging signs in those first 3 games that they could just flip a switch and be really good. But on Saturday night, you're talking about a huge crowd, and that Penn State team's going to be amped up because you have a top 10 team coming in. If not now, when? But it starts with Drew Aller. On the other side, I mean, I've been saying it since the offseason. Dante Moore is one of the best quarterbacks in America, and I did not think he was going to be this good. Dante Moore, the way he's throwing with anticipation, Oregon has over 30 plays already of 20-plus yards in the air. You're talking about Decorian Moore, true freshman. He's special. Evan Stewart, he's out for the season probably with the torn patellar tendon, and Oregon is still eating people alive in the air, right? You're talking about Decorian Moore. He leads the team in receiving. Malik Benson. Kenyon Sadiq might be the best tight end in America. Jeremiah McLennan, Gary Bryant Jr. Yeah, they have a lot of guys that could do that role. And by the way, for Oregon, when you talk about their rush game, Mekhi Hughes was supposed to be the best running back transfer. Hasn't really done much. This Oregon offense, from the offensive line to Moore, who's only started 9 games in his career, to young receivers, they're young, but they're talented. And that's what Dan Lanning did. And yeah, this test is like nothing they've ever seen. I don't think any team could be prepared to go into the whiteout game. And so for Oregon, you're traveling east to face it. The motivation is obviously going to be there. So let's get back to Penn State. Penn State offense has not been good, right? We're talking about that. They haven't had to show it. They haven't had to be elite. Now they have to. I don't know if they're just going to flip the switch and be incredible. I think that if Oregon forces a turnover or two on Drew Aller or a fumble from Singleton and Allen, they're going to win this game. Penn State, everything is in their favor, though. You talk about this passing offense, or even the Penn State rushing offense, rather, top half of the Big Ten, averaging over 190 per game. Their points per game skewed a little because of the teams they're playing. Can they flip a switch against an Oregon defense that isn't unstoppable? Oregon went 13-0 in the regular season last year. They were number 1 in college football. Then they gave up 40-plus points in the Rose Bowl. And even during the regular season, Oregon's defense was not incredible. This Oregon defense is talented. They can fly. You're talking about Thieneman, Matayo Uiagalelei. He's a stud. Bryce Butcher, he's returned. He already has an interception or 2 this season. They force turnovers. And so for Drew Aller, it's about playing safe football, but also explosive football when all eyes in America are going to be on you. And let me get back to this Penn State thing before I make my prediction. Let me just throw out a few more stats right here, right? You're talking about Penn State football. In their first 3 games, they have outscored opponents. They've given up 17 points, and quick math here, you're talking about around 120 points. Now you're facing Oregon, a high-flying offense. Penn State's got to keep up. That's number 1. Dante Moore, number 2. If Dante Moore outplays Drew Aller, Oregon has a real shot to win this game. He has 962 yards on the season, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, a QB rating of just under 200 rather. Completion percentage of 74% is towards the top in America. If Penn State lets Dante Moore throw the ball, yeah, I mean, who knows? Because they have A.J. Harris. A.J. Harris has been thrown at once through 3 games. That's the best matchup I want to watch in the air. Decorian Moore versus A.J. Harris. Is he going to follow Decorian Moore? Probably not, but we'll see. And the biggest thing with this Penn State defense, new coordinator in Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles saw Will Stein, Oregon's offensive coordinator, in the Ducks twice last year. The first one in Autzen, yeah, it didn't go great for that Ohio State defense. The second one did. Dylan Gabriel was clamped. They had trouble going, and that was an Oregon offense that was averaging over 34 points per game. It was one that was averaging 60% third down conversion rate, really good. And Jim Knowles put him in a blender. And so for this Penn State defense, when Oregon takes the field, well, first drive, Oregon's got to avoid the knockout punch. Place is going to be bopping, obviously, going to be huge. And then Jim Knowles' defense. Jim Knowles, one of the reasons Ohio State won the national championship last year was their defense in the playoff was nearly unstoppable. The way he moved his stars like Jack Sawyer, Caleb Downs, you're talking about Desmond Burke, Sonny Styles, right? He moved them around so much, especially Caleb Downs. And you're talking about A.J. Harris, he's one of the best corners in America, facing a high-flying Oregon team. I do think Jim Knowles has what it takes to stop this Oregon defense, but that's really obvious. You have to talk about that right there. And for Penn State, this is the last thing I'm going to say before my predictions, right? If not now, when? The narrative for James Franklin ever since he's gone into Penn State is, can you beat a top team? Is Oregon a top 5 team ranked right now? No, James Franklin has never won against a top 5 team. So even if they win, it's not going to matter. But it's a top 10 team. He's won like 2 games against them. If Oregon, this team, this young, I think Oregon will be a very good team and a national title contender in 2 months. But they obviously have stuff to work on. But if they march into Happy Valley and beat Penn State, all the pressure is in Penn State. Because Oregon, what's the worst case scenario in this game? You get blown out, you go back to the drawing board, you look at Oregon's schedule, they're going to be favored in the rest of their games, and there's a very good chance they go 11-1. The worst thing that happens from this game, point differential sucks, and then they miss out on the Big Ten championship, which might not even matter anymore because they're straight seeding. And you're talking about Oregon. They went 12-0, bona fide national championship contender, maturing much earlier than we thought. If you are Penn State, if you lose this game, you are the number one story in America. James Franklin once again won or lost a big game, rather. Drew Aller, what did you do? Penn State, you returned everyone, and you still lost to a younger team at home, and you lost in the whiteout game. You look at Penn State's schedule, they have to go to Columbus to beat Ohio State, and nobody's going to pick them in Columbus if they don't beat Oregon in Happy Valley. On the other side, if they beat Oregon, whether decisively or in a close game, it becomes, maybe Penn State is the team this year. Maybe Penn State has the experience. Maybe this Penn State defense is the best unit in America with Jim Knowles. They haven't had to show it yet, but if they keep Dante Moore in this Oregon offense, which is averaging over 30 points a game, if they keep them in a box, yeah, Penn State might be considered the best unit in America. They're top 5 for sure. Right now, I put Ohio State 1, Texas 2, Penn State 3. If Penn State loses the game, there is nothing good to come out of it. No one's going to pick them to make the Big Ten championship. People are going to pick them to lose in Columbus. They have a few other trip-up games. And it's just back to the drawing board, and it's just like, if not now, when? James Franklin has challenged the Penn State students and the Penn State fan base to make it the best whiteout ever. You have a top 10 opponent coming into town. All the pressure's on the Nittany Lions. Because, again, if not now, when is Penn State going to break through? And if Penn State goes on and wins this game, you could consider them a genuine national title contender right now. And you could before this game, but this one, beating a high-flying Oregon offense, no matter how you beat them, and a well-coached team that Dan Lanning has, yeah, that's the recipe.
There we go.
I went really back and forth on this. I actually put on my TikTok that Oregon was going to win this game, but over the past few days, I've had a change of heart. I love the Oregon Ducks. I think they have a genuine chance to win the national championship. Dante Moore, DeCorian Moore, Dylan Thieneman, Hughes, anyone you put out there, Dan Lanning might be the best coach in the country. Everything is in Penn State's favor for this game. A team from the West Coast, a young team, coming to Happy Valley. They haven't seen an environment like this before. A defense that isn't incredible. They're good, not incredible. Penn State should be able to run the ball against them, and Drew Aller should be able to throw. Penn State's finally getting a top 10 team at home in the whiteout when you return all your guys, and you're coming off a bye week. And you made a significant coaching change, bringing in Jim Knowles, whose number one success last year might have been stopping Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Because Oregon, the thing I stand on the most, Oregon was the second best team in the country in 2024. They just ran into Ohio State too early. I genuinely think they beat any other team. Everything favors Penn State. Penn State cannot lose this game. And I don't think they're going to. I think Oregon is going to go down swinging. And even if Oregon loses, it's back to the drawing board, road to 11-1, and road to contending. And I think there are going to be a lot of learning lessons from them. If Dante Moore turns over the ball once or twice, Dan Lanning will say, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll learn from that. If they play well, you just went into the whiteout game and you gave Penn State, one of the best teams in America, a good game. You cannot go against Penn State here because of the situation, and if not now, when? And I know I said that a lot, and I'm going to be rooting for Oregon. I think Oregon has a genuine chance of this game. I'm not ready to call this Penn State team different, but they're supposed to be. And this is their first real chance on the national stage in one of the best traditions in all of college football and all of sports. And I think they're going to show up. Give me Penn State 30, Oregon 27, and a classic Penn State finally beats a top 10 team.